We're beginning the afterward section of Magic Eyes Only Earth's Encounters with Extraterrestrial Technology by Ryan S. Wood. In the course of preparing for 2005 third annual UFO Crash Retrieval Conference, participants asked whether the subject had not already been exhausted for the first two conferences. Even experienced UFO researchers, some who may not have specialized in this aspect of the mystery, seemed to think that the number of reported incidents was far more limited than the cases in this book have shown. While some of the preceding cases fail the test of completeness and strain credibility, the number of fertile cases, which will undoubtedly grow as research continues, is larger than many realize. Numbers of cases provide credible leaks that beg further investigation. Currently, there are very few resources, people, and money available for this work. The mainstream press does not pay attention, and neither do academia, government, nor foundations who largely fund scholarships. It is easier to ignore this odd and potentially disturbing topic, or consign it to the snicker factor out of fear of embarrassment and ridicule. In the short run, public opinion may continue to settle for official denial, such as the anti-conclusions peddled by Edward U. Condon and his committee's 1,465-page report delivered to the Air Force by the University of Colorado in 1969. In it, Dr. Condon wrote, "Our general conclusion is that nothing has come from the study of UFOs in the past 21 years that has added to scientific knowledge. Careful consideration of the record as it is available to lead us to conclude that further extensive study of UFOs probably cannot be justified, even allowing for the record as it is available to us," and other carefully chosen weasel words in his statement. It is difficult to ignore that Dr. Condon's summary completely disregarded more than one-third of the cases in the body of his own report, cases for which his committee could find no conventional explanation. In fact, out of some 10 to 15,000 UFO reports available, the committee evaluated a scant 58, of which only 33 are explained away, ignoring volumes of key cases and critical witnesses. Dr. Condon himself made public statements denigrating the study before it was barely underway. On January 25, 1967, the Elmira New York Star-Gazette reported on Dr. Condon's address to Sigma Xi Honorary Scientific Fraternity. "Unidentified flying objects are not the business of the Air Force," Dr. Edward U. Condon said here Wednesday night. Dr. Condon left no doubt as to his personal sentiments on the matter. "It is my inclination right now to recommend that the government get out of this business. My attitude right now is that there is nothing to it." With a smile, he added, "But I'm not supposed to reach a conclusion for another year." One of this author's colleagues attended a presentation by Dr. Condon discussing the topic at the Air Force Academy, well before the study was completed, and likewise recalls, "Condon made a short, gruff presentation deriding the study and ridiculing the topic. He made clear that the conclusions, which were months away, should end public Air Force investigation." Dr. Condon's project coordinator, Robert J. Lowe, who was not a scientist, has gone even further in a memo to university officials on August 9, 1966. Lowe said, "Our study would be conducted almost exclusively by non-believers who, although they couldn't possibly prove a negative result, could and probably would add an impressive body of evidence that there is no reality to the observations. The trick would be, I think, to describe the project so that to the public it would appear a totally objective study, but to the scientific community would present the image of a group of non-believers trying their best to be objective, but having an almost zero expectation of finding a saucer. One way to do this would be to stress investigation, not of physical phenomena, but rather of the people who do the observing, the psychology and sociology of persons and groups who report seeing UFOs. If the emphasis were put here, rather than on examination of the old question of the physical reality of the saucer, I think the scientific community would quickly get the message. I'm inclined to feel at this early stage that if we set up the right thing and take pains to get the proper people involved and have success in presenting the image we want to present to the scientific community, we could carry the job off to our benefit. Contrary to Condon in 1967, the prestigious American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics AIAA subcommittee on UFOs stated, the committee has made a careful examination of the present state of the UFO issue and has concluded that the controversy cannot be resolved without further study in the quantitative scientific manner that it deserves the attention of the engineering and scientific community. But such was not to be. Some fault Condon, Lowe, and others for meeting secretly with the CIA during the course of this study. Far more troubling, however, is how effectively the committee's trick, as Lowe called it, provided justification for the Air Force to close Project Blue Book. We must ask ourselves frankly why it is so easy to manipulate public and professional opinion. Blue Book was little more than a low-level propaganda trick of its own. Yet it was the government's only public acknowledgement that UFOs deserve serious study. To this day, based on the Condon report, the Air Force, CIA, NASA, and other agencies denying any ongoing research in this field, as Dr. Peter Surrock of Stanford University's Physics Department has observed that the Condon report, despite serious shortcomings, remains the most influential public document concerning the scientific status of this problem. In work commissioned by Lawrence S. Rockefeller and supported by the Society for Scientific Exploration, Dr. Surrock led a group of accomplished scientists to take another look in the UFO Enigma, a new revelation of the physical evidence published in 1999 and updated in 2000. The new committee overrode the Condon report and concluded that there is much we could learn from further study of the phenomena if the evidence is carefully collected and scientifically analyzed. Extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proof. Where is the evidence? That quotation from Carl Sagan captures the essence of skepticism by scientists today, and they are looking for more proof than they can get from fuzzy photographs and testimony based on distant memories. What we have here in these 74 crash cases, as well as in the Majic documents, is evidence. The investigative team of Dr. Robert Wood and this author hold scores of documents, hundreds of thousands of words, hundreds of pages of which most are top secret Majic or MJ12 code word protected. Many have never seen before, and not just photocopies, but some originals with real inks, watermarks, and testable paper. Forensic laboratory examination has verified authentic papers, period inks, and pencil lead found in marginal notations, valid typefaces, watermarks, and other details that, at a minimum, would have required the most sophisticated, painstaking, and expensive resources to fake. resources not to be found in the public domain through certain available to the major intelligence agencies. The simplest, most obvious conclusion is that these documents are genuine, or else they are the product of an enormous professional disinformation organization. In either case, journalists, scholars, and honest citizens deserve the truth, as UFO researcher Stanton Friedman has stated. Extraordinary claims demand extraordinary investigation of all the majestic documents held in their original paper and ink. The most historic is the burned memo, saved from destruction by a counterintelligence officer clearing the personal safe of legendary CIA counterintelligence chief James Jesus Angleton after his death. It was an original carbon stamped red ink top secret MJ-12 and in black ink with large CI meaning counterintelligence. It is scorched from the last minute rescue from being burned with other documents. The draft memo from CIA Director John A. McCone, designated as MJ1, to other MJ designated officials shows no date stamped but is believed to have been written in the fall of 1963. It references various code word projects, Avero Parasite, Parhelion, along with Majestic and Jehovah, MJ. Every citizen needs to consider what this memo and its attachment might mean. The burned memo suggests a profound and extensive undertaking to conceal UFO research at all costs. The intelligence jargon and code words are discussed further below in the footnotes. In its own words, the memo and its attachments from the Director of Central Intelligence MJ1 state, in the context of the above, it has become necessary to review and evaluate duplication in field activities in light of the current situation. To eliminate the problem, I have drafted new directives for your review and consideration. Please evaluate each draft on its own merit with the goal of finding acceptable solutions in which all can agree on. You must know Lancer, undoubtedly President Kennedy, code word supposedly, has made some inquiries regarding our activities which we cannot allow. Please submit your views no later than October. Your action to this matter is critical to the continuance of the group. Regarding the group's relationship with other agencies of government, directives regarding President's eyes only, in the likely event that the subject of unidentified flying objects or unconventional aerial weapons is a subject matter under discussion with the Chief Executive National Security Council Staff Department's head, the Joint Chiefs and foreign representatives. A clarification of the question is in order to ascertain the reasons for bringing up the subject. A standard response should be suffice to redirect the question. Under no circumstances should a member suggest or by inference that the subject is classified as a national security threat. In the unlikely event that UFOs overtly display hostile intent towards the security of the United States as a group and after consultation, should a full disclosure be made in accordance with the law as required. Tab A, Directive regarding Need to Know. In order to facilitate cooperation with current activities of the group, effective immediately, Need to Know should be granted to the Director, FBI, and Maintenance of Security. Under such time, FBI involvement is no longer required. Existing back channels contacts should not be compromised by these actions. Tab B, Directive regarding Department of Defense 5200.1. Under further notice, DoD 5200.1 will be utilized only in the performance of special task functions with military intelligence liaison officers as specified in SCEO and 54/12 policy directives. Tab C. Directive regarding Project Blue Book. Project Blue Book will continue in its current intelligence collection activities and counterintelligence functions as specified in the current NIE. Reference to Blue Book is authorized only when responding to public and congressional inquiries. Tab D. Directive regarding freedom of information. Priority requests forwarded to members by authorized individuals or institutions are temporarily denied until the threat of exposure is eliminated and the assurance that no residuals are present before requests are acted upon. Tab E. Directive regarding PSYOP. PSYOP units within the existing structure are hereby placed in condition green until such time they are told to stand down. Until designated for green, are authorized to interrogate and detain any and all targets. Tab F. Directive regarding biological weapons. Designated MJ projects should be held in readiness to perform spike and house cleaning operations in major population centers in the event conventional methods are not satisfactory. Specialists from MKUltra and Artichoke are hereby activated to conduct domestic. Tab G. Directive regarding project environment. When conditions become non-conductive for growth in our environment and Washington cannot be influenced any further, the weather is lacking any precipitation, it should be wet. Does Washington refer, again in guarded terms, to the previously cited Lancer or President Kennedy? Does the obscure possibility that things should be wet refer to the intelligence jargon in which wet affairs imply assassination? This may be one of the most pivotal documents that has ever surfaced concerning policies and events of the 20th century. Forensic tests conducted by Speckin Forensic Laboratory for the author show that the watermark is obscure government issue. The pencil and ink marks are consistent with the time period. However, without top-secret ink stamps of the period to compare with, no firm determination can be made without the classification stamps. The pseudo-scientific debunking of Condon and others such as the late Philip J. Klass represents only the most glaring aspect of an overall mainstream refusal to address the implications, scientific, technical, and social, political, military, economic, and moral, of UFO phenomena. Ridicule, intimidation, ignorance, and official hubris, belief among a small coterie of cleared experts that they can accomplish under cover of secrecy, and denial what should properly be entrusted to a wide spectrum of peer-reviewed research and discussion, have marginalized the crucial study almost to a vanishing point. Witnesses are dismissed. Competent, stable individuals whose testimony in court would be sufficient to send a criminal to jail are branded incompetent when they dare to address the UFO topic. Not even highly respected, seasoned, and patriotic witnesses seem to make a difference. The late Gordon Cooper, one of the original Mercury astronauts and the last American to fly in space alone, stated directly in his 2002 memoir, Leap of Faith, An Astronaut's Journey into the Unknown, that in 1951, while piloting an F-86 Saberjet, he sighted metallic saucer-shaped discs at considerable altitude that could outmaneuver American fighter planes. In the late 1950s, while serving as a project manager at Edwards Air Force Base in the California desert, his team of photographers plainly captured on film a typical circle-shaped UFO as it hovered over the dry lake bed. The small disk then slowly touched down briefly to Earth before suddenly taking off at a sharp angle and climbing straight up out of sight. The crystal clear color motion picture film of the event, Cooper said, was taken by officials who flew in from Washington. The film was never seen again. Is Cooper a liar, a lunatic? He was not the only former astronaut to have witnessed UFO activity and made public statements about it, yet without substantial social, economic, or political permission from official culture. Others, such as scholars, editors, and reporters, politicians, and funders, cannot see or admit such paradigm-shifting evidence of UFO activity, even when it is in plain sight. Little wonder that private research to date is incomplete and sometimes in error. Still, this book rests on the confident assumption that witnesses such as astronaut Cooper are telling the truth. So are other witnesses. The problem is, in this environment of official disapproval and even sanctioned civilian UFO researchers must sometimes rely on protected, confidential sources, such in this case with perhaps the most important witnesses to date regarding secrets of the Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit, IPU, the Majestic 12 Group and related programs, Thomas Cantwell. This is a pseudonym for a man that UFO researcher Tim Cooper, no relation to astronaut Gordon Cooper, met very briefly face-to-face, but from whom he received mail drops of documents. Possibly Cantwell trusted Tim because he knew Tim's father, Master Sergeant Harry Cooper, who served in the Air Force of Special Investigations and was commended by General Curtis E. LeMay for support of the Air Force UFO program. Harry Cooper's official Air Force citation reads, "His exemplary knowledge of film processing and printing techniques provided necessary aids in photographic production for intelligence evaluation of gun camera and still photographs requested on call by the Foreign Technology Division and the National Photographic Interpretation Center in their contribution to the United States Air Force UFO program." Cantwell mailed Tim Cooper the most detailed and important Majestic documents that have so far come to light. Numbers of them are discussed earlier in this book and present more fully online, majesticdocuments.com. Following the first public discussion touching further on Cantwell, the witness and source, much remains hidden, and some cannot now be published. Nevertheless, it is known that the tall, elderly man who provided Cooper with documents now being researched by Dr. Robert Wood and this author served in intelligence and was directly involved in the creation of UFO organizations to monitor and misinform in the interest of national security. Quite old at the time, he communicated with Cooper, perhaps in his early 90s. He remained lucid and maintained intelligence connections at Fort George Meade, Maryland, home of the National Security Agency. He had insider knowledge of other programs that now have come to light, such as the Grill Flame Project for intelligence gathering by remote viewing, i.e. psychic sleuthing. Cantwell supported counterintelligence activities such as Pentagon efforts to plug leaks and keep careful track of the military, police, and scientific leaders who participated in UFO crash recoveries, research, and development. After his death, his daughter, using the pseudonym Selena, and herself reportedly a retired CIA counterintelligence officer herself, provided the last of the materials that Cantwell felt obliged to release to history. Cantwell's private comments covered some of the many complex issues embedded in Majestic documents. At the end of his life, this included the significance of extraterrestrial visitation in social and even spiritual terms. As far as he knew, no contact with humans had evidenced a malevolent purpose or hostile intent. Though in a wry and intriguing comment he surmised that we may be the aliens, the extraterrestrial presence might be attributed, he suggested to management of human relationships, man's inhumanity to man, and the flawed policies of human governments that, for example, may seem to favor the rich over the poor. When pressed concerning the numerous sightings near military bases in New Mexico after the July 1947 UFO flap, he guardedly responded by saying, "Because of a kindred need." The unknown craft were both then and later repeatedly seen over defense installations where atomic weapons were developed or deployed. As unfashionable as it may be in a materialist age, he also referenced the Jehovah factor, which he said was theorized by Albert Einstein, in which alien motives somehow include a prime mover, God, a matter of profound discomfort to military and professional authorities confronted by the prospect of a supreme intelligence and other realities. In concrete technology terms, he mentioned intriguing puzzles such as the non-inert qualities of the material used in constructing the craft, suggesting advanced, perhaps artificial intelligence in which the craft themselves were a living technology. He discussed the use of propulsion by gravity waves with atomic power plants and noted that one of the most important research objectives derived from studying the craft was to develop cold fusion reactors. Finally, Cantwell discussed his motives. His comments raise questions about apparent delivery of some documents in facsimile. Designed to avoid legal consequences, we must research this complication further to literally validate each sentence if possible. He discusses the motives and the sense of duty he discusses his motives and sense of duty to reveal key truths in documents that he Xeroxed from originals, from my personal files in his own words. Is that it? Yep, looking like it's it. I'm not reading these hard-to-read documents. What else is here? Hard-to-read document. What the hell is this? What the fuck? A 2005 flyer. Huh. Weird. Looking like it's it.